I came home early that Tuesday afternoon because I had a headache. That's it. That's the whole reason. A headache. If I had taken one more Tylenol and pushed through my shift, I might never have known. I might have gone on smiling, cooking Sunday dinners, and believing my life was exactly what it looked like from the outside. But I came home at 2:47 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in October, and I heard laughter coming from my bedroom. My bedroom. And I recognized both voices. One was my husband of 14 years. The other was the woman I had welcomed into my home like a sister. The woman I had fed, clothed, and protected. The woman who had cried on my shoulder and held my hand and told me she loved me more than anything in this world. My cousin, Tanya. I stood in that hallway for exactly 4 seconds, and then I made a decision that would change every single life in that house. Forever. Welcome to Voices of Mama Yanda. Thank you so much for being here with us today. On this channel, we share real, powerful, and deeply emotional stories about betrayal, love, survival, and the kind of strength that only comes after the worst pain of your life. If you are new here, pull up a chair. You are among family. And if you've been with us before, you already know we do not water things down. Now let me tell you this story, every word of it, from the very beginning. My name is Gloria Jean Tatum Bridges. I am 47 years old. I am a high school English teacher at Booker T. Washington Academy in Birmingham, Alabama, and I have been teaching for 19 years. I teach junior and senior English, AP Literature, and I run the school's creative writing club every Thursday afternoon after school. I love words. I have always loved words. My mama used to say I came out of the womb trying to narrate the experience. Outside of school, I was a woman who believed deeply in a few simple things: her faith, her family, her home, and her husband. My husband's name is Darnell Bridges. We met in our late 20s at a mutual friend's cookout in Atlanta. He was from Birmingham originally. I was from Tuscaloosa, and we bonded over potato salad and a shared hatred of warm, sweet tea. We dated for 2 years, were engaged for 1, and married in June of 2008 in a small ceremony at my grandmother's church. Darnell was a general contractor. He had his own small company, Bridges Construction and Renovation. He was good at what he did, hardworking, well-respected in the community. People liked Darnell. He had an easy laugh and a steady presence, and the kind of hands that looked like they could fix anything. For a long time, I believed they could fix anything. We had 2 children, a son, Deshaun, who was 13, and a daughter, Priya, who was 10. They were my whole heart, our whole reason. Everything I did, every choice I made, was wrapped up in the life I was trying to build and protect for those 2 children. We lived in a 4-bedroom house in Trussville, a suburb east of Birmingham. A house Darnell had renovated himself. Crown molding he installed with his own hands. A kitchen I had designed from scratch. A backyard garden that I kept from March through October. It was not a mansion, but it was ours. It was beautiful. It was home. That is the life I had. That is the life I loved. That is the life that was being stolen from me, one slow, calculated day at a time. My cousin Tanya was my Aunt Rosie's youngest daughter. She was 42 years old, 2 years younger than me, and we had grown up more like sisters than cousins. Summers at Grandma's house, fighting over the bathroom, whispering secrets after midnight. She was funny and bold and the kind of person who made every room louder and more alive. But Tanya had always had a difficult life. First it was the wrong men, then it was money trouble. Then a situation with her landlord that she described in vague, shifting terms that I was too trusting to examine carefully. By the spring of that year, 2022, she called me crying, saying she had nowhere to go. She had lost her apartment in Huntsville. She had nothing saved. She needed somewhere to land, just for a little while, just until she could get back on her feet. I talked to Darnell about it that same night. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "She's your family, Gloria. Whatever you want to do." I took that as a yes. Tanya moved in the first weekend of April. She came with 2 suitcases, a duffel bag, and a bottle of wine she said was a thank you gift. We put her in the guest room downstairs, right next to the laundry room, and I told her she was welcome to stay as long as she needed. "You are such a good woman," she told me that first night, with tears in her eyes. "I don't know what I would do without you, Gloria." I hugged her tight and told her that's what family was for. I meant it with my whole heart. For the first month, things were fine. Tanya helped around the house. She cooked sometimes. She was a better cook than me, honestly, and she knew it, and she wasn't shy about saying so. She drove the kids to school on the mornings I had early meetings. She watched TV with Darnell in the evenings when I was grading papers at the dining room table. But somewhere around the 6-week mark, I started noticing things. Small things. The kind of things you brush away at first because you don't want to be the kind of woman who looks for problems that aren't there. Tanya started wearing nicer clothes around the house. Not the oversized t-shirts and leggings she'd arrived in, but fitted things. Done-up hair even on Saturday mornings. Perfume before noon. She started laughing louder at Darnell's jokes. She started asking me, casually, conversationally, questions about our relationship, about whether Darnell and I were happy, about our dynamic, as she called it. She framed it as concern. "You two seem stressed lately. Are you all right?" I told her we were fine. We were fine. At least, I thought we were. Now, looking back, I can see the architecture of what was being built right in front of me. But at the time, I was busy. I was tired. I was a full-time teacher, a mother of 2 school-age children, a homeowner, a wife, and a woman who had taken in a family member who needed help. I did not have the bandwidth to look for a fire. And that was exactly what she was counting on. It was Priya who said it, my 10-year-old daughter. We were in the car one morning, just the 2 of us, driving to her Saturday dance class. She was looking out the window, quiet and thoughtful, the way she sometimes got, and then out of nowhere she said, "Mama, I don't like the way Cousin Tanya looks at Daddy." I felt something cold move through me. "What do you mean, baby?" She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Like he belongs to her." I gripped the steering wheel. "Priya, that's—" I started, and then I stopped, because I had almost said that's not true. But the honest answer was that I didn't know. And the fact that I didn't know terrified me. "You're very observant," I told her. "I'll pay attention." She nodded and went back to looking out the window. 10 years old, wiser than grown people twice her age. I drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, I started paying attention. I didn't snoop through phones. I want to be clear about that. I'm not a woman who goes through her husband's personal belongings without cause. But Priya's words had planted something in me. And once something is planted in a mother's instinct, it grows whether you water it or not. I started observing, and what I observed, quietly, over the following 3 weeks, was a pattern. When I was home, Darnell and Tanya behaved normally. But when I was away, at school, at after-school club, at church committee meetings, something shifted. I started noticing that on the evenings I came home late, the house felt different. Not wrong exactly, just settled. Like people had rearranged themselves quickly before I came through the door. The kids ate dinner earlier on those nights, earlier than usual, and Tanya always had a reason. She'd say she got hungry or the kids asked for food before I got home. Darnell started coming to bed later. One Thursday night, I came home from a parent-teacher conference at 8:30, and I walked into the kitchen to find Darnell and Tanya sitting at the kitchen table together. They were just talking. Nothing overtly wrong about it. But when I came through the door, Tanya stood up immediately, said goodnight, and went to her room. Darnell barely looked up from his phone. I stood in that kitchen and said, "Everything okay?" "Fine," he said. "How was the conference?" "Fine," I echoed, and I went upstairs. I lay in bed that night, and I prayed. "Lord," I said, "let me be wrong. Let me be a paranoid, tired woman who is seeing shadows that aren't there. Let me be wrong about this." I was not wrong. I had a headache on the morning of October 11th. I went to school anyway. I taught 2 first-period classes, sat through a third-period staff meeting, and by noon, the headache had become a full, pounding pressure behind both eyes that made it hard to read the whiteboard. I got a substitute for my afternoon classes and left school at 2:15. I stopped at the pharmacy for Excedrin. I drove home. I pulled into the driveway and noticed that Darnell's work truck was in the garage. He was supposed to be at a renovation site in Hoover until at least 5. I thought maybe he'd come back for tools or paperwork. I let myself in through the side door quietly because my head hurt and the kids wouldn't be home from school for another hour and a half, and I just wanted silence. The house was quiet downstairs. I set my bag down on the kitchen counter, and then I heard it. Laughter, coming from upstairs. From the direction of the master bedroom. My master bedroom. I stood perfectly still. I heard Darnell's voice, low, easy, the way it sounded when he was relaxed. And then Tanya's voice, higher, lilting, saying something I couldn't make out. More laughter. I put one hand flat on the kitchen counter, and I took 3 long breaths. Then I walked upstairs. The bedroom door was not fully closed. It was open about 4 inches. 4 inches was more than enough. I pushed it open. Tanya was sitting on my side of the bed. My side, with my pillows behind her, wearing a tank top that was not hers. And Darnell was standing at the dresser mirror, fixing his collar. They both looked at me at the same time. And the silence that followed was the loudest thing I have ever heard in my life. I did not scream. I am a woman who teaches literature. I have read every story about rage and betrayal and destruction that has ever been written. I know what screaming looks like, and more importantly, I know what it costs. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, and I looked at them both, and I said very quietly, "Get out of my room." Tanya swung her legs off the bed. She had the nerve, the absolute audacity, to open her mouth like she was going to say something. "Gloria!" "If the next word out of your mouth is my name," I said, "I want you to think very carefully about whether you have earned the right to say it." She closed her mouth. She walked past me. I did not look at her. I could hear her going down the stairs. I could hear the guest room door close. I looked at Darnell. He had turned around from the mirror. He looked guilty, yes. But underneath the guilt, there was something that looked almost like relief, like he had been waiting to be caught, like being caught was easier than the alternative. "How long?" I asked. "Gloria?" "How long, Darnell?" He looked at the floor. "About 6 weeks." 6 weeks. She had been in my home for 3 months total, which meant this had started 7 weeks after I opened my door and told her to make herself at home. "In this room?" I asked. He said nothing, which was its own answer. I nodded slowly. I looked around the room. The crown molding he had put up with his own hands, the curtains I had picked out, the family photo on the dresser, our wedding photo, right there on the dresser. "Okay," I said. I walked to the closet and I took out a large duffel bag. "You have until the kids get home from school," I said. "Pack what you need for now. You can come back for the rest when I'm not here." "Gloria, can we please just—" "The children will be here in 90 minutes, Darnell. I suggest you use the time." I walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, through the kitchen, and out into the backyard. I sat down in the garden. I pressed my hands into the soil, cold October dirt, and I let myself cry for exactly 7 minutes. Then I washed my hands. Then I went back inside and knocked on the guest room door. Tanya opened it. She had been crying. Real tears, from the look of it. I looked at her for a long moment. "I need you out of this house," I said. "Tonight." "Gloria, please. It's not what—" "It is exactly what it looks like," I said. "And you know that. And I know that. And we are both too old to stand here and pretend otherwise." Her chin trembled. "Where am I supposed to go?" And I almost felt something. I almost felt the old pull of it, the protectiveness, the worry, the woman in me who had always made room. But I looked at her, and I thought about my bed. My side of the bed. My pillows. That, I said, is not my problem anymore. By the time my children came through the front door at 4:10 that afternoon, Darnell's truck was gone from the driveway, and Tanya's suitcases were stacked neatly by the front door. Deshaun dropped his backpack and looked at the bags. Then he looked at me. I crouched down so I was eye level with Priya. Mama needed some changes, I said. Cousin Tanya is going to stay somewhere else now, and Daddy is going to be somewhere else for a while too. Priya looked at me steadily. Is it because of what I told you? No, baby, I said. It's because of what they did. She nodded like she understood completely, because she did. Deshaun was harder. He was 13, and he knew more than I gave him credit for, and he carried things differently than his sister. He went to his room and didn't come out for dinner. I sat outside his door for 45 minutes, not saying anything, just present, until I heard him unlock it from the inside. I went in and sat on the edge of his bed. Dad messed up, he said. It wasn't a question. He did, I said. Really bad? Yeah, baby, really bad. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Is he still my dad? I looked at my son, his serious eyes, his jaw that was starting to lose its boyhood softness, and I said, He will always be your father. What he did to me doesn't change what he is to you. Those are two different things. He thought about that. Then he nodded. Okay. Okay, I said. I kissed his forehead and went to make dinner. Tanya called Aunt Rosie that same night. By the next morning, my phone was ringing with relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Tanya had apparently told the family that I had kicked her out on the street without warning over a misunderstanding, and that I was breaking up the family over nothing. Nothing. My Aunt Lorraine called me and said, Gloria, you know Tanya struggles. Was it necessary to put her out like that? She has nowhere to go. I said, Aunt Lorraine, I found your daughter in my bedroom. There was silence. In my bedroom, I repeated, with my husband. The silence got longer. Oh, she finally said. Yes, I said. Oh. She didn't call back after that. The family divided the way families always do when betrayal breaks the surface, along old fault lines, old loyalties, old resentments that had nothing to do with the present situation. Some people came to me immediately. My mama, who called me and said nothing for a full minute while I cried, then said, Baby, I am on my way. My cousin Marcus, who texted me a string of fire emojis and then called Darnell to say things I will not repeat here. My best friend Carla, who appeared at my door with a casserole and a bottle of wine, and absolutely no questions. She just sat with me until I was ready to talk. Other people sided with Tanya, or with keeping the peace, which is just another way of siding with the person who caused the damage. I let them. I had stopped performing for people's comfort a long time ago. Darnell did not go quietly. He was staying at his business partner Ray's house, and within a week, he was calling me every day. Sometimes twice a day. He sent flowers. He sent a letter, an actual handwritten letter, that was 6 pages long and covered everything from childhood trauma to career stress, to how he felt invisible, and how none of that was an excuse, and how he was in therapy now, and how he loved me. I read every word of that letter. Then I folded it and put it in my desk drawer. Because here is the thing about love and betrayal that nobody tells you. The depth of his apology was not the issue. I believed he was sorry. I believed he meant every word. I am a woman of faith, and I understand repentance. But sorry doesn't unring a bell. Sorry doesn't put a woman out of the bed you've shared for 14 years. Sorry doesn't give back the image that is now burned into your memory for the rest of your life. I told Darnell I needed time and space to think, and that right now I was not able to have conversations with him that were productive. I told him that my priority was our children and their stability, and that I expected him to co-parent with me respectfully, regardless of what happened between us. He agreed to everything, but I had made myself a promise in that garden, with my hands in the cold October dirt. I was not going to make any decisions about my marriage from a place of raw pain. I was going to get quiet. I was going to get help. And I was going to be absolutely sure of whatever I decided next. 3 weeks after I put her out, Tanya posted on Facebook. The post was long. It was a transparency post, she called it. She talked about toxic family dynamics and women who tear each other down instead of lifting each other up. She didn't use my name. She didn't have to. Anyone who knew us both knew exactly who she was talking about. She got 214 likes. Some of them were from people I had known for 20 years. I sat with my phone in my hand, and I read that post 3 times. I felt the anger rise in me like heat, and then I put the phone down and I went for a walk. I walked 4 blocks, turned around, walked back. And when I got home, I did not respond to the post. I did not call her. I did not text anyone in the family about it. Instead, I opened my laptop, and I called my attorney. Now, you might be wondering what legal matter. She wasn't arrested. Nobody stole money. This was a personal betrayal, not a crime. You are right about that. But here is what I had. When Tanya moved into my home, we had, at my insistence, because I am a careful woman, a simple written agreement, a short-term occupancy agreement. It stated that she was a temporary guest, not a tenant. It stated the terms of the arrangement. It was signed by both of us. And the reason I needed it was this. When I asked Tanya to leave, she had sent me a text claiming that since she'd been there 3 months, she had tenant rights, and I couldn't just put her out. My attorney, a woman named Patricia Dukes, who had been practicing family and property law in Birmingham for 27 years, looked at the agreement and looked at Tanya's text and smiled slowly. She signed a guest agreement, Patricia said. Not a lease. No money exchanged. She has no tenant rights whatsoever. She sent a cease and desist letter the following day, formal, precise, and absolutely airtight. I never heard from Tanya about that again. It was a Sunday in December, 6 weeks after everything fell apart, when Darnell asked if he could come by to see the kids, and I said yes. And afterward, he asked if we could talk for a few minutes, and I said yes to that too. We sat at the kitchen table, the same kitchen table where I had graded 10,000 papers, where the kids had done homework, where we had eaten 10,000 dinners. It felt strange to be sitting across it from him like he was someone I barely knew. He told me things he hadn't said before. He said Tanya had pursued him, not the other way around. He said it had started with small things, compliments, small touches, conversations late at night, and that he had not handled it the way he should have. He said he had been dealing with depression and stress about the business, things he hadn't shared with me, and that he had used that as a reason to let his guard down. That's not an excuse, he said. I want to be clear. I'm not telling you this to excuse it. I'm telling you because you deserve the full truth. I looked at him for a long time. Why didn't you tell me the business was struggling? Because you carry everything, he said. Because you never complain, you never fall apart, you just handle everything, and I felt like bringing more to you was... He stopped. I was embarrassed. I felt something shift in me. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever in the way things had been before. But understanding, the beginning of it. You should have come to me, I said. No matter what, you should have come to me. I know. She counted on you not coming to me, I said. She saw the gap and she walked right into it. He looked at the table. Yeah. Darnell. I waited until he looked up. I don't know what the future of us looks like. I genuinely don't know. But I need you to understand something. I'm going to be fine. Me and these children are going to be fine, regardless. I know, he said. You always are. That is not a compliment, I said. That is a problem we have to talk about if there's ever going to be an us again, because I am tired of being so strong that nobody thinks to ask me if I'm okay. He nodded slowly. I'll ask, he said. From here on out. I'll ask. In January, Tanya made another post. She shared a cryptic paragraph about women who present one image to the world and another at home, and about fake Christians who attend church every Sunday and then destroy families. Fake Christians. She was calling me a fake Christian. Me. The woman who had given her a roof, a bed, a warm kitchen, and 3 months of my life. But here is where God moves. Because Darnell's sister Evelyn, who had stayed completely neutral through all of this, saw that post. And Evelyn had receipts. Evelyn had noticed things during the months Tanya was in the house. She kept quiet because she hadn't been certain. But when she saw that post calling me a fake Christian, painting herself as the victim, she was done being quiet. Evelyn went through her phone and she found text messages. Messages that Tanya had sent to a mutual friend the very week she moved into my home. Messages where Tanya described Darnell as fine as wine and clearly not appreciated. Messages where she said she was going to make herself comfortable. Evelyn forwarded those screenshots to me first. Then, with my permission, she posted them. The response was immediate. Those 214 people who had liked Tanya's post had something to say now. The comments section turned. People who had been nodding along to Tanya's narrative of victimhood were now reading, in her own words, exactly what her intentions had been from day one. Tanya deleted the post within an hour. She deactivated her account within 3. It is now April of 2023. Darnell and I are in couples therapy. Once a week, with a counselor named Dr. James Whitfield, who has a gentle manner and a completely exhausting ability to ask the precise question you were hoping to avoid. We are doing the work. The real work. Not the kind where you apologize and go back to normal, but the kind where you dig up everything that was buried underneath the comfortable life, and you look at it. It is hard. I will not pretend it is not hard, but I can tell you that we are talking to each other now in ways we never did in 14 years of marriage. Whether we make it or we don't, I know this. I'm not the same woman who sat down at that kitchen table in October. I'm better, harder in the places that needed hardening, softer in the places that had been frozen for too long. As for Tanya, I have not spoken to her. She is not welcome in my home or my life. That is not bitterness. That is a boundary. There is a difference, and I know the difference. I do not wish her harm. I genuinely do not. But I also do not owe her access to me. Forgiveness is between me and God. Reconciliation requires safety, and she is not a safe person. My children are doing well. Priya is still dancing. Deshawn made the honor roll in January and told Darnell on the phone, firmly, respectfully, in a voice that sounded terrifyingly like mine, "Dad, I need you to not mess up again." And Darnell said, "Son, I hear you. My garden is already started for this spring. Tomatoes, peppers, zinnias along the back fence. The crown molding in my bedroom still looks beautiful. Let me tell you what I know now that I didn't know before. I know that the people who betray you most deeply are almost never strangers. They are the ones you loved without condition, the ones you made room for, the ones who knew the layout of your life because you showed them yourself, room by room, door by door, trusting that love was a currency that would always be honored. Sometimes it isn't. And when it isn't, you have a choice. You can collapse under the weight of what was taken from you, or you can stand up. Not perfectly. Not without pain. Not without crying in your garden with dirt on your hands. But you can stand. I am a woman of faith, and my faith has been tested this year in ways I did not expect. But here is what I've come to believe with everything in me. Your integrity is your testimony. It is the one thing no one can take from you. No one can steal it, delete it, or post around it. The people who know you, really know you, will always find their way back to the truth. And the ones who don't, they were never really yours to keep. I am Gloria Jean Tatum Bridges. I am 47 years old. I'm a teacher. I'm a mother. I am a woman who came home early with a headache and refused to let what she found destroy her. I am still standing. And my garden is beautiful. Thank you so much for watching Voices of Mama Yanda. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength, or if it gave you the courage to stand up for yourself when everything felt like it was falling apart, please take a moment right now to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Every voice on this channel belongs to a woman who refused to be silenced. We see you, we honor you, and we will keep telling your stories. Until next time, stay strong, stay grounded, and remember, the truth doesn't need your help to survive. It just needs your courage to tell it. See you in the next story.